now to our next speaker, Hans Nottehed. Are you around?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful.
Probably looks something like this.
That's great. So it's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Magnus, and hello, everyone. So my name is Hans Nottehed. I'm the founder of a company called Vourity. And we're in the business of enabling companies to get paid for the smart infrastructure. So we think there is a lot of talk about technology, but perhaps there is also a need to introduce payments and finances to pay for the infrastructure. So we are a cloud-based platform for what we call self-service payment, sales, and delivery. So that means basically getting paid for services where there is no human interaction. So combining financial technology and Internet of Things to get paid for the services or the smart infrastructure. Now, looking at the world seems to be always changing, and very much so the last year with COVID-19, but over the years, the world is always changing. That's how things are and probably will continue for quite some time. And the change is a challenge for many companies and cities and municipalities. They're struggling to make money with these rapid changes, and especially last year, there has been super rapid changes to all aspects of society. And the companies are trying to find ways to actually make money or even survive in these situations. So from our perspective, we see the smart infrastructure as a source of revenue. So obviously it can do quite a lot of interesting things, but if we can introduce a way to get paid for your services, the usage of the infrastructure, or even for the optimization gains that you introduce with this cool technology, perhaps there is some ways that we can actually make money from this, rather than just getting the obvious technical benefits. So one example for this, to make it more concrete, is when we talk to building owners, we're discussing transforming the buildings into marketplaces. So if we look at the situation with COVID-19, many property owners have seen that companies are leaving the buildings, many retail stores are going out of business. So they're left with buildings and not sure what to do with them. And we're trying to help them to actually use the infrastructure and transform these into marketplaces. It could be buildings like in this example, but it could also be cities and municipalities and so forth, where you could introduce a type of marketplace thinking to generate revenues. One example in buildings, if we look at, for example, traditional access control, this is something we typically, at least in normal times when we go to the office, are faced with. We have a security badge, swipe it to the door, and if we are approved, we get access to the building. This is a single purpose application. It does very good what it's supposed to do, and it sits there for 10 years, but nothing changes, except the world that is changing. So, but what if we could actually change the theory behind the access control system and let it to become a source of revenue instead of just being a cost, by introducing a next generation access control, which is more of a multi-use service, where we could introduce access control, but also, for example, payment services or booking services into the same solution, where you can, as a real estate owner, can actually get paid for products or services or meeting rooms and so forth in your building. One way of doing this is by using our payment terminal. This is very hands-on and concrete, where we use a payment terminal that enables you to get paid for, let's say, connected things, Internet of Service things, and so forth, where you can pay with any open payment method, credit cards, payment cards, mobile payment options, and use, of course, standard ways of getting access to the building with your access cards and so forth. Some examples of how this can be used. One is paid access, where you pay for getting access to the building depending on what you're using for. It could be public restrooms. These days with COVID-19, it could be co-working situation where you transform a building to a co-working location where you pay by the hour or based on the usage. Electric vehicle charging. So this is part of the smart cities and the smart infrastructure. And it's quite expensive to build and install. So we are introducing ways to get operators and the owners of these paid for the services. There are existing solutions, but they are very difficult for the travel and drivers to use. And we are introducing open payment methods and way to actually make life easier for the drivers than it is today. It's a huge hassle. Other obvious ways is, for example, vending machines and unattended retail shops. You have container shops, kiddie rice, coffee machines, and so forth, where you want to sell a service any time of day or night without human interaction. Various types of last mile delivery service. In this case, it's click and collect. You buy something online on a web shop and you go to a cabinet to pick up your delivery rather than having to wait for the delivery to your post office, for example. Also, when it comes to smart resources and smart infrastructure, we're talking about resource sharing. And with our platform, we can actually introduce a ready-made platform for resource sharing where you can get paid for your services. It could be laundry rooms, sauna rooms, meeting rooms, any type of resource that you want to share and make money from by creating ecosystems with partners and actually making a better use of the existing resources instead of building new ones all the time. With the example of the payment terminal I showed you, you can actually define and use different features and functions depending on the situation you have. You can use payment methods, booking methods, delivery features, various payment things. Here in Sweden, we use something called Bank ID, which is a digital bank issued digital ID that most people have today in their mobile phone. And it could, for example, be used in smart doors to only accept access to people of a certain gender, to keep women safe in gyms or fitness centers, or making sure that you have the right age to actually get access to the building, or getting paid for the services. We obviously work in a public environment, so we were very aware of and focused on the user interaction. So everything we do is super graphical and always trying to improve the usability and make it easier for the people to use and buy. And on the theme that the world is always changing, we also think that the technology has to change with it. So traditionally, when you build things, it is hard-coded by engineers and technicians, but it takes quite a long time and it's very costly. What we are introducing is something called no code, or a way to actually graphically draw and build the sales process or the processes in the payment terminals and in the company by using our back office in a web browser. You draw, for example, in this case, a sales process of a vending machine or electric vehicle charging, where you combine modules on the left side, for example, a payment module or a Internet of Things module. You can open a door or switch on a lamp or open a barrier for a bridge and so forth based on things happening. And this is something you can create templates from and then change as the world changes, enabling you, the company or the city, to actually rapidly change the processes on physical environments and physical things in pretty much real time or next week or whatever the world is changing. Obviously, everything is managed in the cloud, so there's not much to install except obviously the things and sensors in the real world next to the smart infrastructure. We are very much aware of and focused on meeting the sustainability global goals from UN. And by using our platform, we support various of these goals, but here are two of them. Number one is to use the platform to actually enable people to create more companies to support their families and the local community. And also being a platform enabling people and companies to create resource sharing services without a lot of technical development. There is a ready-made platform, so if you want to build the next Airbnb and Uber, instead of doing all the coding yourself, you can get a head start by using our platform as the tool for that. So if you want to get in touch and find this interesting, I'll be happy to oblige. And here are my contact details. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Oops, maybe, yeah, I'm not muted. Thank you so much, Hans. And I have a question for you on the chat. So what is that you sell? Hardware, software, or a service?
Both. So the main thing is the cloud-based platform, but working with connected things in the real world, we provide hardware where it's needed, for example, the payment terminals, or we partner with hardware manufacturers that do barriers or other smart infrastructure things that benefit from the payment service that we provide. So combining with partnerships.
Okay. And what about, I mean, you mentioned or touched on COVID and the issues with COVID. So can you be more specific? Have you seen any big changes in the demands and requirements for your services because of COVID? I can imagine in many situations, things have changed a lot.
It has changed a lot. And actually, we were worried last year that with COVID, we thought sales would drop. But actually, since companies are struggling to survive, but they still want to sell their services. So we have seen a huge demand for being able to sell the service without human interaction. So how can we make money, but without actually having salespeople available on the floor? So.
Yeah, I guess it also saves people from being exposed. You know, there's so many angles on this issue. So yeah. I don't think there are any more questions for you right now, Hans. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much.